In just the last few months, there's been an updated lineup of cards that has helped me earn over 100,000 points. Around the same time, I've booked over $5,000 worth of flights while only paying a couple $100s out of pocket. So in this video, I'll break down those exact cards, how they've elevated my recent travels, the high value redemptions made, and something I'd do differently if I had the chance. Now let's start with a recent addition that's seeing the most action in my wallet lately, the Citi Strata Premier card. During a 2-week trip to Taiwan and Thailand, I ended up putting a lot of group expenses on the card. Meals, hotels, and airfare, covering most of the credit card spend in our 6-person group. Of course, I got reimbursed later, but in the process, I spent over $2,300 in restaurants, over $1,000 across airfare and hotels, plus a mix of smaller charges across gas stations and supermarkets, all of which are the special 3x categories on the card. Combined with some non-category spend, earned me just under 15,000 Citi thank you points on spending alone. And the beauty in all of that, just how naturally it fit into spend I would have done anyways. I just use it to pay for whatever, and because the categories lined up so nicely, I didn't really need to think of it at all. Not only did this burst of spend help me hit that $4,000 minimum spend way short of the 3-month mark, the timing was also perfect because at that time, the welcome bonus was still an elevated 75,000 points before recently dropping back down to a base of just 60,000 points. So between spending on the card what I would have spent anyways and triggering that amazing welcome bonus, I ended up with a pretty easy 90,000 Citi thank you points in just a couple months. Now this is my first Citi card, so I've yet to experience everything Citi has to offer, but just knowing I have more flexibility in rewards now with transfer partners like Flying Blue, whether it's flying business class on China Airlines to Taiwan, or Air France to Europe, both of which I've earned more than enough points for already, make this card way more useful long term. And of course, there's the unique one-to-one transfer to EVA, which I wish I had sooner, and part of the mistake we'll get to later in this video. But yeah, despite the welcome bonus on the card already hit, given how easy it is to earn 3x points on such common and broad categories, as long as I can continue to find good value from the Citi points, the Strata Premier will likely stay in my wallet for the foreseeable future. Now, before the Strata Premier came into the picture, my Capital One Venture X card was my main catch-all and fallback card. It's been in my wallet since it launched over 3.5 years ago, and for the longest time was the card I would reach for when nothing else made more sense, giving me that super simple 2x miles per dollar spent on everything. For example, with General Hotels, most other cards would give you 1x points, but here 2x. Groceries, same thing. Even Invisalign, that's a lot of spend I can double my points on when most other cards can't. It was exactly that kind of miscellaneous spend, combined with booking one hotel and having more use on the card the month before I got my Strata Premier, that totaled about $6,000 of spend or 12,000 points. But what makes the Venture X card stand out isn't because of the earning rates, or even the fact that I still come out ahead every single year thanks to the easy-to-use credits despite the $395 in annual fees. It's really the perks layered on top, like 10x points for hotels and car rentals booked through their portal, car rental status, and most of all, the lounge access. Even with the recent changes, it's still one of the biggest value drivers for me, like with the removal of Plaza Premium lounge access, though to be fair, many of those lounges still show up under the Priority Pass network anyways, and clarifying their language a bit, limiting Priority Pass guest access to just 2, whereas previously it was more like unlimited. That said, it was still a star player, elevating my recent group trip, helping us access lounges in literally every single airport that we passed through. In Vancouver, we had the SkyTeam Lounge. Over in Taipei, there was the Oriental Club Lounge with a legit live noodle bar. Chiang Mai had the Thai Royal Orchid Lounge. Phuket gave us access to the Coral Beach Lounge. And Bangkok, tons of options. We actually got lucky in Bangkok, visiting just days before the massive lounge network shakeup, where a bunch of lounges dropped out of the Priority Pass network there. Rumor has it was forced upon them through the airport, not the lounges or the network themselves. I didn't even realize just how good Bangkok Airport was for lounges until deep diving during the trip. You had lounges from Oman Air, Turkish Airlines, and the one we ended up choosing, the Air France lounge. And honestly, it was the best call, with a bright space, lots of natural light, modern layouts, solid food, and of course desserts. It just felt more inviting compared to the others. So despite the recent hit to its lounge access, the Venture X is still my go-to card for that catch-all category. Just that the Strata Premier may eat into a bit of that spend. But as long as I'm getting more value out of it than I'm paying into it, like leveraging that $300 travel credit or the 10,000 mile anniversary bonuses, it's still a keeper card that guarantees I'm earning 2 times miles on everything that takes a credit card, and that alone makes it worth keeping. Now on the flip side, we have the American Express Platinum card. This one's not typically in my wallet for everyday use, but it definitely comes out as another star player whenever I'm traveling, whether I'm booking flights, tapping into various credits, or taking advantage of the additional lounge access, with a catch that may actually contradict with something I've shared in the past. But first, recently the Platinum card has earned me not only a sizable chunk of points, but has also saved me over $2,500 when booking flights with cash. Yes, I booked business class flights with cash, and it's the first time in my life doing so, as there was such a massive savings when booking these flights through the American Express travel portal. Flying 14 hours from Taipei through Singapore to Melbourne on Singapore Airlines business class for just over $1,000, where everywhere else I can find, including Google, quoting around $1,900, saving about $2,500 across 3 tickets. And that's because of the international airline program they have, which typically flies under the radar, offering discounted fares on some of the world's best airlines, which Singapore Airlines definitely is. And since I booked through the Amex travel portal, I also earned 5 times points on that purchase, which came out to just over 16,000 Amex points, just like that. And valuing at my target of 2 cents per point, it's like getting $320 in value back in your pocket, or treating it like an additional 10% off the airfare price. Now yes, the card does come with that steep $6.95 in annual fees, but I've time and time again, year after year, gotten more value out of it than the annual fee. And that's with the usual credits like the hotel credit, airline fee credit, Uber Cash, Saks Fifth Avenue, and among some others. What also adds up over time are the Amex offers. While I don't go out hunting for them, I've definitely saved hundreds of dollars every year just by adding the right ones at the right time. The same goes for any Amex offers I might be targeted for, like right now getting 30% off Amazon purchases up to $30 off. As for lounge access, it's still one of the highlights of the Platinum card. The Centurion Lounge access is usually the standout, especially with SeaTac as my home airport and having one of those lounges. The food is decent, the seating is comfortable, and I'm a big fan of the coffee and smoothie bar. But since I haven't been flying out of SeaTac lately, and because I usually fly with a group, I haven't taken advantage of this in the last few months. Instead, on my recent trip, the Priority Pass came into play, but that's not without hiccups. In the past, I've mentioned how having multiple Priority Passes, like on my Venture X and my Platinum cards, lets me bring 5 to 6 people into these lounges without issue. But this time around, throughout my trip, about half of the lounges wouldn't allow this. Chiang Mai and Bangkok were the most strict, where they would only allow me to use one of these cards because their system wouldn't allow 2 cards from the same name. Taipei and Phuket though were fine. So this tip for group travel may still work, but it probably depends on the lounge. Still, despite these quirks, the Platinum still earns a spot in my setup, at least during times of travel. Between the 5 times points on flights when I need to book direct, the pile of credits, lounge access, and the really valuable and flexible Amex MR points, it's a card I don't mind keeping year after year, and at this point, I'm pushing over 6 years. Not for everyday use, but for what it's built for, it still delivers. Now, it's not just premium cards that are valuable. Mid-tier cards play just as big of a role, and one that's been a long-time staple in my setup is the Chase Sapphire Preferred card. It's not a flashy card, no 5 times categories that I regularly use, no lounge access, hotel status. It's honestly just consistent. For example, up until I picked up my Strata Premier card, this would be my go-to for food and drinks, both local and abroad. The 3 times on dining adds up in value really fast, especially with Chase Ultimate Reward points, which I still consider one of the best points out there, though I'm just a bit more flexible now with my my choices. I've also used it a few times for airfare, not because of the 2 times earn, but for its travel protections. You see, one thing that gets overlooked is that some of Chase's travel protections actually kick in even if you pay just part of the fare with the card. On an award ticket, I might be paying around $100 in taxes and fees, but still get trip and baggage delay insurance. Most cards require you to pay for the full fare in order to activate that. Trip cancellation and interruption insurance, though, is only up to the amount charged to the card, but even that partial protection can add some value. That said, now that I've added the Citi Strata Premier card, some spend may end up on that card instead, especially for travel agency purchases or other sorts of travel that might get 3 times points there. But food-wise, given it's between 3 times of Chase points or 3 times Citi points, I'd still lean towards Chase most of the time just because I value those points slightly more. And it also boosts the value of all of my Chase points, where I can pool them all together and transfer them to Chase's best partners, like Aeroplan, Hyatt, or others, like doing so with the points earned on my other workhorse card, the Chase Freedom Flex. It's one of my staple no annual fee cards, but still pulls serious weight, especially combined with my Sapphire Preferred, or when those quarterly categories match up with my typical spend, earning those 5 times points per dollar up to $1,500 of spend every quarter. Some quarters I get pretty close to that cap, other quarters barely anything. In Q1 this year, it was groceries, so I spent a little bit there, but not that much given I don't typically spend in groceries anyways. But now in Q2, including Amazon, I'm seeing a lot more use, especially with front-loading some purchases, given Amazon has almost anything you would need anyways. And the same goes for quarters where PayPal shows up, which is where I typically get the most value out of the card. If maxing that out every quarter, that would be 7,500 points, where at my 2 cents per point target would be around $150 in value, just like that. Outside of those rotating 5 times categories, it does also earn 3 times in dining and drugstores, but because I have the Sapphire Preferred anyways, I typically just lean on that card instead. Overall, it's not a card I think about often, only when the categories that quarter make sense. But for a no annual fee card, there's really no reason to not keep it in the mix. And for situations where credit cards just don't cut it, that's where the Charles Schwab debit card can kick in. It's not a credit card, but it's still a key part in my wallet, especially when traveling to cash-heavy places like Taiwan and Thailand, where enjoying all of the amazing street food and night markets requires real cash. The ability to withdraw at any ATM at decent rates and get the fees reimbursed, always solid. Now, while these cards earn me over 100,000 points in just a few months, points are worthless until you actually use them. It's redemptions that actually give them value. And in that same time, I've redeemed for over $5,000 worth of flights, paying just a few $100s and points, though I could have used a lot fewer points if I had done just one thing differently. The first major redemption was a booking for 4 people in business class from Toronto back to Vancouver. Yep, another Toronto wedding. The cash price, over $1,000 each ticket, but through Aeroplan was able to use just 27,000 points and $38 each ticket. Points I could transfer from earning with Chase, American Express, or Capital One. It's pretty flexible. So instead of paying over $4,400 for all 4 tickets, it was 108,000 points and 152 in total fees, resulting in a value of 3.9 cents per point. Even better, most of the flights on that route operate a narrow-body plane where the business class is just a simple recliner. But these tickets were booked on their wide-body planes with true lie-flat seats. The same ones they use on international flights, like I've experienced flying from Vancouver to Osaka, or previously flying return from Montreal. Plus, as I'm bringing my parents along, it's always nice to see them experiencing the nicer things in life. Now, the second redemption is one I probably should have done differently. So basically, for a major Asia trip later this year, I needed to book a flight from Singapore to Taipei, with a strong preference in EVA business class, given I've already locked in 2 tickets on that exact same flight. And so for that route, it would cost me 25,000 EVA miles and around $90 in fees. With a ticket costing $1,066, that's a value of about 3.9 cents per mile. The problem, I didn't have any EVA miles, and their only transfer partners are Citi at a 1-to-1 rate and Capital One at a 1 to 0.75 rate. Since I hadn't gotten my Citi Strata Premier bonus yet, I was forced to go through Capital One, meaning I had to use 34,000 Capital One miles, dropping the value to just 2.9 cents per mile. Still a good redemption, but had I just waited a little bit longer for my Strata Premier bonus, which I knew I would hit quickly given my upcoming travels at that time, and that EVA typically has good availability through their own program, I could have saved thousands of points on that exact same seat. So yeah, booking over $5,000 worth of flights, paying just a few $100s out of pocket, and over 100,000 points earned where I can now use towards a future trip, more than enough for another business class ticket already. But as a reminder, earning points is the easy part, especially if you're going for flexible points like I've been. It's optimizing and using them that takes real planning. And to learn exactly how I plan, search, and book these trips in detail, check out this video here. Safe travels, and I'll see you next time.